Heating with wood is a fantastic option whether you live on a homestead or not. We've been heating with wood for the past 10 years and have never looked back. There are some common pitfalls that I see a lot of wood stove owners making that end up costing them a lot of time and money. So in today's video, we're gonna walk through these pitfalls so you can avoid them with your own wood stove. So even living out here on the treeless prairie, we've managed to make wood heat work for us for a long time now. In a perfect world, I'd love to have a patch of trees here on our homestead that we could harvest wood from, but that is not a possibility out here. So what we do instead is we have a big semi-truck deliver loads of logs to us every year from the mountains nearby. When we get them in bulk and uncut, they're a lot cheaper. And then we just kind of have a system that we do out here in the back pasture every so often to fill our wood box here at the house. It has been bitter cold this week. High winds, low wind chills. It's been a long week. So every couple weeks or so, we have to refill our wood box up by the house. So we go out to our pasture where we keep our big logs and split them and stack them up. Today it's extra special because we have a whole crew of people here. There's a friend who's in need of a little bit of help with his firewood supply. So we have a whole crew helping him out. It's pretty cool. Sometimes it's frustrating living in a small town, but on days like this, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Biggest problem that most people are making with a wood stove is that they are using an inefficient model. And there's a lot of cool old stoves floating around, but that doesn't necessarily mean that those are going to be right for you, especially if you're planning on heating with wood full time like we do. So the biggest thing we looked for when we started shopping for a wood stove was efficiency. And we didn't want to have to be babysitting the stove, constantly feeding it wood. I mean, we have other things to do. So we needed something that we could set and forget. We ended up going with a Blaze King Princess model. And I'm not saying this is the only one to go with, but this is the one that's worked really, really well for us. We've been using it for many years now. And the cool thing about these stoves, or any high efficiency stove, is that they have a really tight firebox, and we have a lot of power to regulate the air and therefore the temperature. So we stuff this baby full of wood first thing in the morning and basically leave it alone other than adjusting the knob over on the side. And the same thing goes before we go to bed. We stuff it full, set it, and that's pretty much it. And a lot of times when I get emails from people who are like, this wood stove is stressing me out, I'm spending my life babysitting the stove, it's because they have an inefficient model and they're having to regulate it by how much wood they give it. And that can take a lot of time. So I actually grew up with a stove like this, an old Fisher. This one was from my parents' house. They had two, so this one came to live with us in our shop. They still have the other one. Anyway, it's a good old stove, and we used it for years. My parents still use their Fisher, but it's not as efficient, so we spent a lot of time growing up adding a log, waiting, adding another log, and it just took a lot of maintenance. It does have these dampers, of course, to regulate airflow, which are nice. But definitely a big difference in how much work this one takes versus the Blaze King in the house. So all this you see is just some rust damage that came when we had a ceiling leak a while ago, and we just need to get it brushed up and cleaned off. So don't yell at me, I know, we'll get it cleaned up. Christian's in here installing a floor in the girls' bedroom, but I'm gonna see if I can bug him real quick and get him to talk about catalytic converters for a second. Okay, remind me again why you went with the catalytic converter on our wood stove, because I know that's a hotly debated topic.
A catalytic converter burns the smoke. So in a traditional fireplace, all the smoke and all the fumes and all the off gases that come off of that wood just go right up the chimney. When you have a catalytic converter in there, it's just like a catalytic converter on your car. It burns that smoke so that you're actually emitting less into the atmosphere. My reason is you're burning those gases and you're getting secondary heat off of that. So now I'm getting BTUs off of the wood that I burn, which creates heat. But now I'm also burning the gases after they leave the fire, and I'm getting even more BTUs out of that.
So I don't necessarily think you have to have a catalytic converter, but for us it's made a ton of sense and we've been really, really happy with it. And a lot of people say they get gummed up and break. We haven't had any issues with ours, have we?
So there were some reviews of people saying if you burn pine, or for instance like beetle kill pine, you know, pine is the only thing we have around here. Some people don't like pine because if you live back east where you got a lot of good hardwoods, we don't have that out here. So they're like, you burn that trash wood and your catalytic converter is going to plug up and it's not going to allow airflow to go through there, and you're going to have to put a new one in, and the new one's like $600. You know, all kinds of horror stories about how bad it was. And we've had ours, I don't know, 10 years, and I've never changed it. I've never cleaned it. I've never taken it out. I've never done anything with it. You can look up in there. It's all the cores are perfectly clear. It runs great.
And we burn beetle kill pine, like the worst wood for a catalytic converter. So we can only speak to our experience. It's been really good. I'm sure there's other people who haven't had great experiences, but I think if we had to do it again, we would do catalytic on another stove. Wouldn't you say? Yeah. Now another mistake that happens sometimes is that people forget to help the air circulate around. The fan that I love the very most for this is this little eco fan. Can you see it? There it is. It's non-electric, no batteries. You just sit it on the back of the stove, and when the stove heats up, it magically turns on. Christian could tell you how it works. I don't really get it. I just know that I love it. And it blows a nice amount of air. Oh, I'm really yellow. Why am I so yellow? We also did put in the ceiling fan when we did our addition. The objective was to get all of the hot air down from the high ceilings, but to be perfectly honest, we hardly ever turn it on. We just don't really need it. It stays plenty warm in here on its own, and so I don't know. I mean, I think a ceiling fan's a wise idea if you feel like you need a little more bang for your buck out of your wood heat, but I don't know, we just haven't used ours very much. Now obviously another really important consideration is the wood. And the harder the wood, the better. We burn pine, which isn't the hardest wood out there, but it's definitely the best, AKA really only wood option we have available in quantity here in Wyoming. So bright out here, I can barely keep my eyes open, so I'm sorry if it looks like I'm squinting because I am. Now another really important aspect when we're talking about wood is to make sure the firewood is seasoned, which is just a fancy term meaning that it's sufficiently dry. Green wood or freshly cut wood is not going to burn well. It's going to be hard to split and it's going to be a major pain. If you are cutting down trees or you're getting wood that was freshly cut, you want to let it sit, preferably before you split it, for 6 to 12 months. So these are beetle kill trees, which means they were already dead when they came out of the mountains, so we don't have to worry about seasoning this stuff. So it is so dry here in Wyoming that we don't have to really worry about keeping our firewood in a building. Now I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and it's always raining, so that was a really big deal, was keeping the firewood dry, but here it's pretty much dry even if we leave it outside. If you would like all the info on how Christian built his homemade log splitter, because he did it all himself and it's pretty cool, check out this video.